welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. This is part 3 of my New Mexico Ristra series, and in this video we're going to work on the porch overhang and also on the wooden beam. If you're following along with traditional materials, check out part 1 in this series where I have a list of all my canvas, paints, and the brushes that I use. The app that I'm going to be using is Infinite Painter for Android, and we're going to go ahead and start working on the wooden beam that comes under the porch here. And I went ahead and started working on the shape of the edge a little bit, and so I'm kind of just cutting back on the brown color right here. And if you want to change it and you're working traditionally, just put some more of the background color for the wall there. And if you're using Infinite Painter, of course, you can go ahead and make sure that that's on a separate layer, and then you can go ahead and change it quite easily. So here I'm just kind of trying to make the shape of the pillar that goes under the porch here, and I'm just kind of working on it a little bit with some dark color, a dark brown color probably. And I kind of just want to make a combination of the two wooden beams that I have in my photo reference series. So I don't want it to look real fancy or anything. I just kind of want a simple look for this wooden pillar. And then, so I'm just kind of working on the edge here, and you can use the Angelo brush for this and make it really small. And if you're following along traditionally, just go ahead and use a round brush, just kind of a small brush, because we're starting to kind of try to put in some details here. And I want the scroll work on the beam under the porch to kind of look like it's sort of stair-stepped here, and so I'm just kind of working on the shape here and blending in some brown colors. And if you're following along traditionally, use a burnt umber color for this. You can throw in some burnt sienna if you want to, but we kind of want a dark brown color for this because it's going to be partially in the shadows. So we want to go ahead and work on the shape of the wood right here and just kind of make the beam sort of rough looking. We don't want it real straight because we want it to look like it's kind of handmade, so the edge doesn't have to be really straight. And then we want to make the outside edge of the porch overhang a little bit lighter, so you can use a light brown or a yellow ochre color if you're following along with your acrylic paint, and just kind of give it sort of a rough wood-like texture. And I just keep working on the shape of the curly cues that are on the side of the beam there. I just want to kind of get a simple shape here, and so I was just sort of working on it and kept changing it a little bit because it wasn't quite what I wanted, but I just kind of wanted a stair-step shape there on the edge there. Not quite as fancy as my photo reference photo on the left side there, but kind of like it. And so I just kept working on it a little bit and adding dark and light to it, and just trying to kind of use a perspective trick that Mark Kistler used. Instead of going ahead and using a ruler or use the perspective tool, I'm just kind of trying to keep the lines at a slant there, lined up with what it is in the photograph, and then just kind of draw them in, but not be real precise about having to use the perspective tool. And Mark Kistler used to do that, or does that. It's one of his tricks where he'll just make the lines parallel to each other, and it works fairly well. And so I just wanted to use that for this picture because it's a pretty simple way to get a perspective look without getting very complicated. And then here I changed the texture a little bit because I wanted a kind of a grainy look for the wood there, and so I went ahead and picked a sort of a grainy texture here, and then I'm just highlighting the stair steps shapes on the scroll work of the pillar there, and just kind of trying to get it to look right here. And it's not quite still right because I need to line up the edges in a stair step shape, and then here I'm starting to get it right. And you want to go ahead and make the outside edge look straight with the beam, or line it up with the beam that goes across on the porch overhang there. And so I'm just kind of working on that, and I'm using a lighter color, and I'll go back and darken it a little bit later, but I just was trying to get the shape here. And if you're following along traditionally, that's kind of a yellow ochre color, and it'll be covered up again. You can let some of it show through when you go back and work on it some more, and that just kind of gives a more convincing wood grain look to your painting. And then you can go ahead and take some burnt umber for those that are using their acrylic paints, just a dark brown, and kind of line these little stair step shapes up a little bit better here. But I'm still keeping them sort of rough looking because I want this to be like a hand carved look. And so I just want to go ahead and kind of give it uneven edges, just a little bit. We kind of want them to look, fairly straight, but also not like it's perfect. We want a little bit of some unevenness there. And then I'm just kind of working on the shape again, blending it over with a darker brown, and you can just mix burnt umber and yellow ochre if you're following along with acrylic. Just kind of mix those two colors together and just get sort of we just kind of want a wood grain look here. And so I'm working again on the edge, and sometimes it just takes a while before you can get your shape. You just have to keep working till you get the shape that you want and perfect it. And sometimes that takes a little while. You have to keep going back over it, trying to correct it, trying to find out, does that work? Does this shape work? Did I do it right? Do I need to make this smaller? And one of the things that you should do is either shrink the picture, or if you're doing it on a canvas, step back and look at it and see if it looks correctly. And you just have to keep doing that and keep working on it. I mean, sometimes painting is not, you don't get it right the first time. In fact, sometimes you don't get it right the second or the third time. You just have to keep on working at it, and you may have to correct things, and sometimes that means painting over something. And if you're doing this traditionally, that it's kind of a pain in the neck, but you still have to go ahead and get your paint and try to mix it the best you can and paint over it and just kind of redo it until you get it right. And that's just kind of the name of the game. That's what you do when you paint. You correct things, you work on them, you see if this works, and you just keep on doing that till you get it where it looks right. And then here I'm trying to add some straighter lines to the beam there, but I'm not going to keep them real straight. And I'm adding a little bit of some highlights there, and I'll finish working on that in the next part here. But I just wanted to go ahead and make it a little bit straighter there and line the edges up a little better. So this is the end of my part 3 in my New Mexico Ristra series. And in part 4, we're going to go ahead and put the final touches on the wooden beams and the porch overhang, and also on the Ristra. So thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below, and I will catch you later.